So I'm I'm Ian, and welcome to May's edition of Lloyd's Careers Live. And tonight we're going to be exploring careers and Gen AI. Now, this is one of those topics that we've been looking forward to all season because every week it seems, whether it's Gemini, Claude, Anthropic, ChatGPT, Copilot, there's always a new capability being released. And that pace of change in AI is so rapid. We know that this is a topic on Careers Live that we need to come back to again and again. But for tonight, our aim is to help you understand how AI is impacting Lloyds Banking Group and how some of the jobs are changing as a result of AI. And we're going to hear from some of our apprentices whose careers are already being shaped by this technology. And I'll introduce you to my co-presenter, Grainne.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Grainne, and I'm delighted to be here tonight alongside Ian for this edition of Lloyd's Careers Live. Now, in the world of recruitment, AI is creating huge opportunities and quite a few challenges. There are lots of questions being raised about how to use AI in your job or even university applications, and whether AI will be a profession in itself or a technology that will affect many different roles. And coming up later in tonight's live stream, we have Daniel from one of the largest apprenticeship training providers in the UK, a company called BPP. And Daniel will tell us a little bit about BPP, how it's shaping his role, and the future of apprenticeship training.
Now, we love to make Lloyd's Careers Live interactive, and because AI throws up so many different opportunities, but also some ethical dilemmas, we have a few dilemmas for you to try your hand at in a game in a little while.
And we'll also be hearing from Tom and Callum, our apprentices who already work with AI, and Astitva, who is an expert in AI working for Lloyds Banking Group. So lots to look forward to tonight.
So before we get started with this evening's show, let's see that you all know how to use the chat function in Zoom. So if we open that up, there's always a risk here as to what goes on, Grainne, when we open it up, doesn't we? And we'll see where everybody is joining us from. So we don't have a prize for the person who's going to be joining us from the furthest away, because usually somebody is on the moon in there, but it's always interesting to see what parts of the UK that we're able to reach. And I can see Weston-super-Mare in there. Well done, Weston-super-Mare.
Yeah, I've
Which is down
noticed
the road from
someone
me.
there from Northern Ireland. It's always nice to see someone from where I'm from too.
Yeah,
It's
lots of
great to
London.
see, yeah, loads coming through.
Gosh, yes, some of it is going past so fast, and everybody loves London and Uganda, as also Australia. Is that
Albania,
actually right?
wow,
Albania, blimey. Okay, so lots of different places in there. So thank you very much. Right, we'll call end to that one. Just focus now on
brilliant.
Greece as
So it's
well.
great to see all of the different places that you've come from tonight to join us. We have two quick polls for you to try. The first poll is on a scale of 1 to 5. To what extent do you feel confident in understanding careers in AI? Now, if you're not confident at all, maybe that's a 1 for you. But if you feel like that you could stand up here tonight and tell us all about careers in AI, maybe that's a 5. What's coming through
Yeah,
on
it
the
doesn't
poll?
matter, by the way. There's we're not recording who says what. It really doesn't matter what. This just helps us to understand where everybody's starting from, really, in there. Um,
A real range of
so
2s
you're
and
using
3s.
bits of AI at the moment, Grainne? Where would you be on
I
this? Do you think?
am. I would probably say a 3. So I use DeepSeek and ChatGPT to write my meal
Oh,
plans for the week and things like that.
wow, I've never thought about using it for meal plans. So that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. So we seem to be settling mostly around the twos and threes, which is not surprising, really, is it? Because it's because it is really new and difficult to necessarily kind of feel that you're completely on top of it. So here's our second question then. So on a scale of 1 to 5, exactly the same. So to what extent do you believe Lloyd's is currently your preferred choice of employer? Now, when this one appears, we want you to be honest. We're definitely not peeking at anybody's answers. And Grainne and I are not going to close the call and go home if you all put a 1 in there. It doesn't matter. It just helps us to know how well we're going to be doing in helping you understand what we do at Lloyd's and how we're able to help you grow your career. So if you're curious but not convinced it might be a 1 or a 2, but if you're absolutely convinced that you're going to be the people looking after Lloyds Banking Group in years to come, then that might be a 5. And we're kind of like settling in the middle, aren't we? But we've got a few fans a bit on the 4 side as well there, Grainne, so who knows?
Absolutely. Now, we'll come back to that later on in the show to see how your scores have changed over the course of the next hour. And at Lloyds Banking Group, we consider ourselves to be an inclusive employer in everything that we do. And if you need to, you can enable closed captions at the bottom of your Zoom screen now if you think that would be beneficial. And if you'd like more time to consider the content that we covered tonight, at the end of this recording, the webinar recording will be available on the Lloyds Early Careers YouTube channel from tomorrow. And you can also watch back all of our previous episodes along with transcripts of the shows there too.
Great. And from time to time, we're going to open up the Q&As and the chat. And at certain points tonight, we're going to delve into the chat to see what common themes are emerging. So we do, though, encourage you to relax into the show, listen carefully as we give out lots of really important information, and that you can sometimes miss that if you're busy thinking of questions. So great to have the questions, but remember to also listen as well to our guests. And with that in mind, let's introduce the first of our guests for this evening, which is Astitva Kurnish, who is the Data Science and AI Business Lead. That takes some saying, doesn't it? In the AI Centre of Excellence for Lloyds Banking Group. Astitva, that is one of the longer job titles that we have here on the show. Do you manage to get all of that out when somebody just says, what do you do?
It's a mouthful, isn't it? It is really.
It is. It is. So how do we make this easy then? We say that's quite a job title, but in the world of AI, and you're in a center of excellence then. I just want to kind of find out, and we often ask this question, which isn't always in our script in there, but how do you explain something so complex to maybe your friends and family, around like the family dining table, and they go, what is it that you actually do then? So how do you explain that in simple terms?
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today, Ian. I'm really excited to share my journey and insights with the young and curious minds. And to answer your question, um, well, it is quite an exciting field to be in, but the irony is that not everybody understands what AI is. So I usually try to give them a sense around how I'm trying to use some of the data to be able to make life simpler and easier for people, cutting across all the horizons and journeys that they go on to. So my career, in fact, didn't start in this field. I started off in business and data analysis roles over a decade ago. And it was simpler to explain those roles. And back then, AI felt like this complex, distant field. Over time, as I worked more with data and saw its potential to solve real problems, I just got curious. And it was less of a grand plan and more of a journey of following interests that took me here. And I was constantly asking, can I make this smarter? Can I make something faster and safer? And that curiosity slowly pulled me into AI, one project at a time. And I don't know if I'm on the right path. That's okay if you think about that. Sometimes you just find passion on the way.
That's a nice way, isn't it? Sometimes I think of it like sometimes with careers, we're just following like the string and going, where is this actually going to lead us to? And we don't quite know where, but we're on a journey. So what was as you mentioned, AI is so new. So what was the pathway and route that got you to where you are now?
Great question. So it was really a stumble. My first brush with AI and data came during my studies in electronics engineering. There was a module on data analysis, and honestly, it just clicked for me. I found it fascinating that you could use data to uncover patterns, tell stories, and even make predictions. How cool was that? And that curiosity stuck with me. I chose to start my career in a graduate data analytics role where I gained hands-on experience, but more importantly, had the chance to learn more from some of the amazing mentors who really shaped my thinking. And from there, my journey into AI evolved naturally, project by project and use case by use case. Now I get to lead AI and data science initiatives in Lloyds, focusing on areas like economic crime and personalization, where AI and Gen AI is really making a difference. And it's been less of a career switch, more of a series of intentional steps driven by passion and curiosity.
Hmm. So I want to ask then, so sometimes when we follow career pathways, we're following in the footsteps of others, but for the field that you're now moving in, there isn't really that kind of, those footsteps aren't so clearly set ahead then. So how do you approach that kind of shift in the way in which you plan a career when in your field it's not always easy to be able to predict that future?
Yeah, I mean, for students who are keen on developing a career in AI, I'd like to say you don't really need to be an expert coder to start, right? If you're into maths, logic, solving problems, or even storytelling, these are great starting points. Begin with free online resources like AI Basics from Google or Microsoft. Try simple coding platforms like Scratch. You could even build like a chatbot or do a school project around AI and ethics. What matters more is playing with the ideas, just being curious. And don't worry if it all seems too complicated. Everyone starts not knowing, but the ones who keep exploring learn eventually, right? So it's a fast evolving field. Stick to, the basics, I would say.
Brilliant. Now, we're not going to force you into kind of like disclosing confidential secrets on Careers Live. Well, hopefully not anyway. But how is AI actually being used by major banks then at the moment? I'm just thinking of how is it helping, for example, innovate products and services?
Well, AI and in particular, Gen AI is becoming a core part of how banks operate. At Lloyds, we use AI to make banking smarter, safer, and more personal. For example, AI helps spot fraud in real time by detecting unusual patterns. And more broadly, in general, Gen AI can help personalize your banking app, like suggesting how you could save money or manage spending based on your habits. So banks are increasingly also using Gen AI to support colleagues, automating some of the routine and mundane tasks so they can focus on more important and value-adding tasks of helping customers. And across product innovation, Gen AI is like setting the trend in testing the ideas faster, like designing new credit products or insurance services that are tailored to individual needs of the customers. In summary, AI is redefining how banks really operate.
Mm. I'm thinking as well that some things in finance are they've got so many different facets to them. You know, somebody who maybe is questioning, will I be able to afford this? Will I be able to retire comfortably? Will I be able to have got so many factors in there that some of the reason why people don't then make decisions is because there's so much going on that their head explodes and then they actually decide to do nothing. So I think what I'm hearing here is that power of AI with its ability to be able to process so much data and produce so many different scenarios and understand the likelihood and probability could be really helpful in helping customers to just be able to shift from where they are now and be able to plan ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how personalization is really helping the customers to just focus on the things that are relevant in their own context.
Hmm. So we've got a game for students, but it is quite serious, of course, a little bit later on, which I think you're going to be joining us for as well, because AI is, of course, an opportunity, but we also hear some negative stories about AI. So how does a bank like Lloyds need to consider using AI safely and ethically?
Well, that's a huge priority for us. With great power comes great responsibility, right? AI can do incredible things, but it must be used carefully. At Lloyd's, we have clear principles for ethical AI, like being transparent, being fair, and being accountable for what we do. And as a responsible bank, we test our models rigorously to make sure that they're not biased or making unfair decisions, but equally deploy ethical guardrails and frameworks to safeguard the bank and the customers. We also do this by involving human oversight. So AI supports decisions, but doesn't replace people where it matters. It's only about um, what it's not just about what AI can do. It's also about what it should do, and that's the ethical mindset. That's something we want to pass on to the next generation.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And do stay with us then, because although we have to move on, do stay with us because I think you're going to be joining us, aren't you, as we look at we and our audience tonight are going to be looking at some of those ethical dilemmas. Astitva, for the moment, though, I just want to say thank you so much for all of that insight, Grainne.
Thanks, Ian, and thank you so much, Astitva, for joining us. Some great insights shared there. Now, before we go on to our next fabulous guest speaker this evening, I've had a quick look at the Q&A, and there are some really clear themes emerging there. Lots of questions around work experience and internships. I'm going to answer those live in the moment for you. Now, at Lloyds Banking Group, we offer work experience for students in year 10 right up to year 13 and 14, or the equivalent if you're in Scotland. And for younger students, you apply for these direct through your school careers advisor, and we work with schools to create events for you. And once you reach the age of 18, you can apply directly to us, or sorry, 16, you can apply directly through our available places that are all listed on Eventbrite. So pop into Eventbrite and look for Lloyd's Careers Early Careers page. Now, right now, all of our places are full for this summer for in-person work experience, but we are releasing additional places across the summer for employability skills work experience and also specialist data skills work experience. And they're all advertised on Eventbrite and on our Faster Forward platform. We'll pop the links into the chat to make it easy for you to find both of those. And then as more places are released, you can be front of line for available slots that come up. Now, a few of you have been asking about internships. And internships are a product that we offer for students at university who are just about to start their final year of uni. These internships usually last for about 10 weeks over the summer and they are paid placements. The places are limited. And because they are paid placements, you do have to make an application for them, typically in the autumn of the year before you undertake the internship. Now, we don't currently offer internships for students still at school or college. That would be our work experience program.
Brilliant. Okay, so just looking in the chat, I've just popped that link in, Grainne, for everybody for Faster Forward. And another common theme is around apprenticeships, which is around who can apply and when can you apply. So we offer around 30 different types of apprenticeships. It does vary from year to year. You can see every one of them on our website. Now, the guidance we're being given at the moment is that vacancies for 2026 entry will be opening around late October of this year. And that means that assessments will be going on through into January, more or less aligned with the standard UCAS process. Now, all of those are going to be starting in September 2026. You can be any age to apply straight after school, after university, or as a career shift. I think Barclays wins the prize with the oldest apprentice age 72. So there's life for everybody through apprenticeships. Well, almost everybody, I think everybody on this call can still do an apprenticeship. Now, the minimum grades that you need to do, because we've got some other questions in there about minimum grades that you need to do, they differ from one apprenticeship to another. And we set those out really clearly and carefully in every job advert. Now, typically the only scheme we really insist on A-level or maths higher is for our actuarial scheme. And that is because maths is a core component of what you're going to do there. And if you don't love maths, you probably wouldn't love actuarial anyway. Otherwise, you also need GCSE or national level passes in maths or English before starting your job at Lloyds. And so, because we know that we've got a few people on here who have maybe done their education in other countries, now is a good chance for you to consider how to get those all important grades sorted before you apply. And also, if you did your education in another country, that you can get all of the equivalence done, translated, before you actually go to apply. Phew, right, great. So we'll come and dip into more questions later on, but Grainne, I'm holding you up because you've got Dan from BPP waiting.
Absolutely, and indeed it's a pleasure to welcome Dan, who is a Strategic Relationship Manager for Financial Services at BPP Education Group. Now, BPP are one of the largest apprenticeship training providers in the UK, and we've got Dan on screen, so welcome, Dan. Now, Dan, I've just mentioned the phrase training provider, and that's probably new to our audience. So, who are BPP and how do they work with employers like Lloyds?
Absolutely. Thanks, Granny. It's great to be here. So BPP Education Group are one of the largest apprenticeship providers here in the UK. The role of the training provider, put simply, is to provide training. So we work with organisations such as Lloyds Banking Group to help train individuals in many areas such as technology, financial services and accountancy, to name a few. We actually offer over 50 different apprenticeship standards, so we are quite diverse in our offering, which enables us to work with large organisations and support them. We work closely with clients to ensure that we're providing the best solution to help develop talent within an organisation and then support them with skill strategies on how we can help you going forward.
Brilliant. Now, Dan, sometimes students who are used to choosing a university through UCAS find the idea that their apprenticeship employer picking the training provider a little bit odd. What advantages are there to doing things that way?
Absolutely, yeah, it can feel a little bit strange. I suppose the benefit of working this way is that organisations can work with providers on bespoke training solutions. So many of BPP's clients have actually worked with us for many years. So we and myself get to know the businesses really well to understand how you operate, your terminology, your jargon, and the words that you guys use. So that kind of supports us in helping individuals and clients. In addition to this, the training is actually covered by what's called the apprenticeship levy, which employers pay into every year, and this is to cover your training costs. An advantage for an apprentice is this also removes the pressure of having to find both a job and a training solution at the same time.
Brilliant. And Dan, I know you've got a rich heritage in financial services yourself. So how does that help you and BPP provide a great service to our apprentices?
Absolutely. So yeah, I was really lucky when I did my A levels. I was offered a work placement within retail banking. This was before the days of apprenticeships really existing in financial services. So I spent my summer working in a bank in a branch. Since then, I've kind of stayed within financial services because I really do enjoy working with clients in this space. I think this helps BPP and my clients to feel comfortable in the fact that I've been in the sector that I'm supporting and I know the roles. And again, I know some of the jargon because I've been along the way. When I actually started my career at BPP, I was a coach, so I supported apprentices in a one-on-one environment in retail banking and mortgages. Because of this, I'm now able to understand our business from a little bit of a different angle. So I can understand the challenges that financial services face, and I can also put myself in apprentices' shoes.
And tonight's show is all about AI, Dan. So with the speed that AI is developing, how is the apprenticeship world adapting and keeping pace?
Absolutely. So it's a very exciting change. It's probably the biggest I've seen whilst I've been working in the apprenticeship sector. The sector's adapting to these changes by launching new programs, so specifically aimed at AI. There's a new one that's recently come out called the Machine Learning Specialists. That's one that we'll be launching this year. There's also potentially an AI Masters program that's going to be launched as an apprenticeship in the future.
So you've mentioned machine learning engineers, and in the apprenticeship world, we have lots of different specialist apprenticeships, including that one and AI data specialists. But we're starting to hear many apprenticeships are being impacted by AI. What's the current situation for Lloyds and BPP?
Absolutely. So at BPP, we're proud to announce that we're actually adapting all of our data apprenticeships from level 3 all the way through to level 7 to incorporate AI modules. And this is to support apprentices and organisations with AI and business strategy involving AI. Whilst we've been doing this, we've also been consulting with many organisations, including Lloyds, on what our current design looks like to ensure that what we have created is beneficial to our clients and supports apprentices of the future. In addition to this, we're actually also launching additional optional modules for all apprentices studying a programme outside of data to learn more about AI, whether it be a customer service apprenticeship or an accountancy one or even a nursing apprenticeship.
Amazing. And how does BPP help the apprentices keep up with the changes in AI?
So whilst some of our programs are being adapted to include those specific AI modules, again, we want to ensure that everyone's got the skills that they need to be able to embrace AI in line with their organisation's policies. So we'll be regularly reviewing our modules to make sure that they're refreshed in line with future changes in AI. We also additionally regularly deploy modules to support learning across all areas that we think apprentices might find useful. This is not specifically aimed at a certain type of apprenticeship program, and it's more, and this is achieved by logging into our learning environment, the BPP Hub.
And then as our apprentices come towards the end of their program, how can they be sure that their skills are still current and up to date?
Absolutely. So learning definitely doesn't stop at the end of an apprenticeship. I'm still learning every single day. So you'll be regularly training and developing yourself as part of your role post completion of the apprenticeship. At BPP, our motto is building careers through education. And one of the real benefits of apprenticeships is I see many individuals start at a lower level apprenticeship and then actually work their way through. So I can see people complete, say, a level 4 in data analysis as an example, and then move on to, say, a level 6 degree apprenticeship in data science. So there's always opportunities for you to develop yourself. You just need to make sure that your line manager supports your application and that you're still in a relevant role.
Fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned there about the progression through the different levels, because that's been a common question in the Q&A tonight. And finally, our last question for you, Dan, then, do you ever see a point where AI will also impact the delivery of training and coaching for the apprentices themselves?
Absolutely. So this is actually already happening already. So we at BPP have recently introduced a model called Coach Assist. So Coach Assist is an AI-powered solution that generates a summary of coaching conversations from live call transcriptions. This allows apprentices to experience a more engaging and productive coaching process with summaries that are clear, actionable, and fully aligned with regulatory standards. I personally believe that there's always going to be a need and a want for tutors and coaches, so actual real people. Training apprentices is it's so valuable in having someone from industry training the future talent as they've been there, they've been able to do the role, they've been able to develop their career and they can provide that guidance. So whilst it will replace some things, I don't suspect it'll replace everything.
I love the idea of Coach Assist, which that was available when I did my apprenticeship. Listening to the coaching conversations, you really want to focus on what's being said and not be distracted by taking notes. So having Coach Assist do that for you is revolutionary. Thank you, Dan, for your time tonight. That was hugely insightful. And we're going to hand back now to Ian.
Yeah, I love the idea of Coach Assist. As a coach myself, I think I could do with that one. We'll have to find out how Dan's made it happen. So brilliant insight there, and thank you so much, Dan. Great to be reassured as well, I think, that whenever you start your apprenticeship, that people are on your side, looking at the training and development and wanting your skills to be as relevant and up to date as possible. Now, we've got something a little bit different for you, and it's your chance to have a go at testing your AI skills. Now, at the risk of opening the chat back up here, we're going to see where we go. One of the huge debates within artificial intelligence, of course, is that tension between the capability of the technology and the ethics of implementing it in real life. If you like, just because you can, does it mean that you should? So we're going to get our two experts on hand now. So we've got Dan's going to come back and Astitva's going to come back here. We're not going to put them on the spot, but we are to guide us, as we're going to show you three very real world scenarios where there is a tension between capability and ethics. And we're going to give you a chance, if Frey can manage to get the chat active for this one, to tell us in the chat what you think you would actually do. Grainne, I think you've got the first question. Listen very carefully.
I do. So we've had lots of questions about the ethics of AI. So this absolutely links to what we're seeing in the chat box. Now, the first scenario is right now. So listen really carefully. And it's all about personalized loan offers. So imagine a bank wants to create a new product that offers personalized loan rates based on a customer's social media activity and online shopping habits. Now, the question around this is, what ethical risks could arise from using this type of data? And how could a bank mitigate these risks to ensure customer privacy and fairness? Not sure I would want my bank deciding my loan offer based on my social media activity and my online shopping habits. But what do you guys think in the chat?
Yeah. So if we can activate that chat so I can see.
Once you're waiting on the chat coming up, we're going to ask Dan or Astitva, have you any thoughts on this at all?
I think personally, just to touch on what you just said there, Grainne, I don't think I'd like someone to make a decision based on what loan rate I should get just because I've decided to spend £500 at ASOS this month. Yeah, not for me is that one.
What about you, Astitva? Any comments on that thought process?
Yeah, I kind of agree because one, there is a risk of using information of customers that we don't have consent from the customers on using. So that's a clear breach of trust. So I wouldn't go as far as using social media activity without gaining customers' own consent to be able to do that.
Yeah, it is a tricky one. So there are quite a lot of ethical risks, including breaches of privacy, misuse of personal data, and even discrimination based on non-financial behaviours. Seeing someone post something on their private Instagram or Facebook could be used to make a decision on that personalised loan offer. So yeah, getting that consent from customers, thinking about anonymizing the information to keep it individual, and making sure that we audit that AI system for biases, ensuring it doesn't unfairly disadvantage any group.
Some really, and I can see that in the chat as well. Well done, everybody. Some really, really good answers. And I think also, Astitva, you'll probably get this one as well. What people are saying is also about the integrity of the data, because what people put in social media isn't necessarily a true reflection of themselves. So there's also the risk if you start building an AI model on data that's already known to be untrustworthy, what's the credibility of what it is that you're creating?
Yeah, totally agree. Data quality issues, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, and Grainne referenced as well, AI models are trained on the volume of data, so the risk of discrimination by missing certain people out in AI's assumption is also quite real. So this is amazing. So it seems like we've already got AI experts on the call. Right, okay, so stop the writing in the chat for the moment. We're going to give you another one, scenario number 2. So a bank, not necessarily Lloyds, in there. This is called automated credit scoring. So a bank plans to implement an AI-driven credit scoring system that uses historical loan repayment and demographic information to assess the credit worthiness, whether somebody should be granted a loan or not. And our question for you, if I can post that in the chat, is what potential bias could this type of system introduce? And what steps could a bank take to ensure that AI makes fair and unbiased decisions? So once again, the bank plans to implement an AI-driven credit scoring system that uses historical loan repayment data and demographic information. And what biases could we start to see? So Dan, any thoughts on this one?
I think from a bias perspective, it's not really fair to be using someone's demographic as a rationale for offering a loan or not. I think probably nipping to the point on sort of using your history of loan repayments. That's something that's happened in the industry for a long time. So I don't think that's probably unlikely to change. But what again, if it's something that you missed, say 20 years ago, should that have an impact on where you are now? So there's a fine line between where you can use that.
A step for you. This is probably very real for Lloyds, isn't it? I mean, we're, it in the old days, when people were considering personal loans, you'd have lots and lots and lots of people sitting there, and let's face it, they probably had quite a lot of unconscious bias when they were making these decisions personally. So it must be quite a dilemma for a bank to now go, well, we can use technology, but we certainly don't want to reintroduce bias, whether conscious or unconscious, in loan decisioning.
100%. And this is a clear use case where using certain fields within the model could lead to customer detriment, and that's a red flag immediately. So things like gender or the area where people are residing could be potentially affecting people's creditworthiness if we are using that to determine who to give out a loan to versus not. So while we identify those red flags, I'm also conscious that you mentioned previous to the automated world when previously humans were making that decision, their own biases would come into play, but we could use AI to almost negate those biases and make it objective for somebody to get a loan based on their actual credit worthiness, based on some factors that wouldn't make them a disadvantaged position to be able to take a loan from us.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think it's picked up and reflected in so many different answers. Thank you so much, Grainne. We're going to just pause the chat if we ask you just to pause for a moment. Thank you so much. And then, Grainne, you've got our third and final question for everybody.
I do. So the final scenario this evening is all about fraud detection. Now, a bank, not necessarily our bank, wants to use AI to detect fraudulent transactions by analysing patterns in customer spending behaviour. So the question is, how can the bank ensure transparency and accountability in its AI-driven fraud detection system? And what ethical considerations should be addressed to protect our customers' rights? What about you, Dan? Any thoughts on using customer spending behaviour to detect fraudulent transactions?
I think it's a great idea overall, personally. If I've never spent some money at a certain retailer, I'd quite like my bank to check in and just make sure, is that me? As long as there's a method to be able to contact me easy, so the payment can still go through if it is genuine. I think a lot of it's just down to how it's communicated with customers, and to ensure that everyone's aware of what's happening in the background.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it is something that we do as a banking organisation. We do look at spending behaviour. I was on holiday a few weeks ago and made a transaction abroad and instantly got a text message to say, was this you? Because it's not my usual spending pattern. What about you, Steve? Any thoughts on?
Yeah, lots of thoughts. Actually, I agree to the point that Dad mentioned where, as a responsible bank, it is our duty to protect our customers, and we should do everything that we could possibly do to safeguard their interests and the money that they trust with us. The thing that I would mention is that there are two aspects within fraud, right? One is detection, which is trying to use all the data that is available to us to identify any patterns that look unusual. And it is fair to do that because we're trying to do it with the best intent. However, when it comes to the treatment of that identification of fraud, it depends how you treat that. If you're locking the customer out and saying, no, you can't make this payment because this looks very, very, it looks like an outlier, then that's a poor customer outcome if it was actually the customer who was trying to make that payment. So if you have like a clear treatment strategy to those detection algorithms, then you can possibly reap the best benefits, both as a bank, and pass that on to the customers, where customer can say, yeah, that looks okay to me because I was trying to make that payment, or no, that's not me, please freeze that payment. So if we have a good treatment strategy on back of the detection, I think that's a good opportunity to protect our customers.
Absolutely, yeah. So thank you everyone for your insights. We've seen lots of similar posts in the chat function from our students that have joined us this evening. We're going to head back over to Ian to move on to our next session this evening.
Yeah, that's been fascinating, and thank you so much, everybody, and to our experts as well for taking part in that. And feels like we've learned a lot, and also that you guys know quite a lot about the ethics of AI as well, judging by all of the comments in the chat. Now, we've heard from our experts, and now it's time to hear from those who are crafting their early careers in data and AI. My first guest that I want to introduce here is Callum Craig-Clark. Now, Callum, where are you today? You're over there, aren't you? And you're joining us from a long way away from me, a bit closer to where Grainne is in Northern Ireland, of course. And you work for what sounds like kind of James Bond exciting part of Lloyds Banking Group, Lloyds Bank International. So tell us a little bit about that part of our business and what makes it special.
Okay, so yeah, I work at Lloyds Bank International, and because of a difference in legislation and regulation, we're just slightly better positioned to offer some services that Lloyds Banking Group can't. So this is primarily our international products, private banking products, high net worth offerings, fiduciary and fund management. And then on the island, we still offer all of the regular retail banking products. So it's just your current accounts and mortgages for residents. Because it's a smaller part of the business, it also means that we get to work quite closely with one another and the community that we actually work within, which is nice.
Now, in a former role, I used to look after part of the business in the Isle of Man, but every time I had to go there, it always seemed to be December and January, and everybody said to me, it's lovely during the summer. Now, I understand that it's a special place for you, and certainly it's famous for its TT racing as well.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the highlights of the year. It's when the island comes to life. We've got about 30 to 40,000 tourists come over in that 2-week period.
Wow, and how they all fit on the tiny road that goes all the way around in a circle as well. Now, your early career, no jokes intended about twists and turns on roads, but your early career has also taken a few twists and surprising turns. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, after school, went to college to do engineering. I was always quite interested in the science and maths of what went on there. But yeah, down the line, I just sort of figured that wasn't what was for me. Went into a trade for a couple of years and then went back to college to study IT before joining the apprenticeship. And I think that's when I sort of discovered that I like the fast pace of IT, because even if you're not sort of sure what you want to do or where you want to go, it changes so fast that you can keep doing something new within the same field.
So I'm sure that you've seen lots of changes in tech and platforms and tools. How do you manage to keep up with, whilst being an apprentice and managing to keep up with all of these changes that sometimes seem to happen almost like every week, if not every month?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of well geared for it here at Lloyds. We have our own internal communications, so we get a lot of updates from our Power Platform Center of Excellence, and yeah, as well with BPP, the study is quite closely aligned to what's happening now. They're not leaving you behind.
Yeah, which is quite important. So I know there are some things clearly in an international business that you can't discuss with us, but of the things you are allowed to tell us, could you give us a kind of sense of, what your job actually might be working on?
Yeah, so I work primarily with the Power Platform in an RPA hub. So
Whoa,
apps
whoa,
and
whoa.
robots.
We have to back up here, don't we? Because we've got an acronym bell going on because we like this in Lloyd's. So an RPA hub.
Yes, so we are the Robotic Process Automation Hub. That is the name of the
Okay.
hub. RPA sometimes is referred to as intelligent automation now.
Okay. So that's what you're working on right now in there as
Yeah.
that part of the business in intelligent automation. So our students this evening then, so they'll be looking at this fast moving field and then thinking about, can I make this application for the apprenticeships for 26 entry? And they may not have the same access to professional grade software and licenses and things that we will have at Lloyd's. So because you're so much closer in age to where they are right now than I am, so how can they our students this evening kind of practically explore and prepare for careers that are increasingly shaped by AI?
I mean, it's personal preference with AI for me. So when I started using AI, I was using it alongside the work I was doing at college, and I just thought I had to go out and I found some AI that worked for me. For me, that was Perplexity AI because it was primarily focused on sources. You don't
Yeah,
have to ask for them.
I like Perplexity. It also helps because I like to know the source in there
Mhm.
as well. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's my key point on that is go out, find what works for you, and keep using it, because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Awesome. If you don't use it, you lose it. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Callum. I think, Grainne, we've got our final guest and apprentice for this evening.
We do, and thank you, Callum. That history of Isle of Man brought me way back to my childhood summer holidays there with the trams. It was lovely to think about that again. So tonight, our final guest and apprentice for this evening is Tom Collier. So welcome to Careers Live, Tom. We'll get
Hiya.
him up on screen. Okay, amazing. So, Tom, what apprenticeship scheme are you currently studying?
I'm on the level 4 data analyst apprenticeship.
And what was your pathway through school that got you to this point?
So I took a T-level in digital, which was essentially computer science, and I did a placement at Lloyds while I was there.
Okay. And why did you pursue a T-level pathway rather than follow the more conventional route of an A-level?
I thought that the T-level would give me the best kind of opportunity to get an apprenticeship. That was my aim from while I was in school, because I thought it would be the best way to kind of get all the pros of university without the debt and some of the other downsides. And it's also working at a great company and getting experience. And I think the T-level with the placement gives you the experience that if you were to apply to other apprenticeships, you have that.
Brilliant. And how is the apprenticeship turning out for you so far?
I think it's been great. I've had really, really good opportunities, especially within my team, where we've been exposed to loads of new tools, new software, and I've had like a good chance to gain real world experience where I wouldn't have in other scenarios.
Amazing. So, Tom, you have progressed from a T-level pathway now into an apprenticeship scheme with Lloyds Banking Group. And I know you're working in the AI Centre of Excellence. How does that role help complement your apprenticeship?
I think it's great. It allows me to work with the latest technology, the newest things in AI, and it's let me build a really good bit of experience for the kind of future I want, where I want to work with AI and data science. That I want to move on to the level 6 apprenticeship after this, and the AI Centre of Excellence kind of fits that perfectly. The role that I'm in means that we're constantly being given new tools to train on, and new like learning platforms that are being rolled out to us first.
Amazing. And we've spoke this evening about AI being such a fast-moving field. How do you stay on top of the latest developments?
I always try and keep up with those learning materials that we're being provided with. There's technical quotients which we're given, which is through Pluralsight, and after completing a few of them, you get rewarded, which is a brilliant incentive. It keeps me on top of that. So yeah, there's plenty of ways other than that as well to develop the skills.
Amazing. Now, we spent a lot of time earlier this evening with students thinking about and exploring the ethics around AI. To what extent is that front and center of everyone's mind in your team when you're exploring the potential of AI?
So yeah, we constantly have meetings in our sprints, which are these kind of multiple week-long sessions where we're working on a specific thing. And within each of those sessions, we talk about how we're staying on top of the ethical part of it and how we're staying responsible with the usage of AI.
Interesting. And are you able to share with us any examples of the kind of ways you've been leveraging AI in your role so far?
So our main focus at the moment is integrating AI into kind of business intelligence and visualization tools. So we've been comparing different solutions that have been proposed to us. So we've had a look at Looker and LookML, which are by Google, which integrates Google Cloud Platform, which is Lloyd's favorite new toy, and Gemini into data visualization. And it has like its own programming language. And then we've also been looking at Copilot, Fabric, and kind of the integration with Microsoft's Power BI. And we've been trying to judge how useful each of these tools are and how we can adapt our projects in the future to make the most of the features.
Super exciting. Now, T-levels sound like a fantastic route into apprenticeships. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat this evening. So T-level sounds like a fantastic route into an apprenticeship, but sometimes that opportunity isn't available to everyone. How do you think students in the call this evening can stay up to date with their knowledge and skills if this is a career field they want to pursue?
I think follow along with all of the updates in the AI sphere, keep track of big developments. Like, I think for me, the release of DeepSeek was such an interesting thing because you could look at how that worked and there was a lot behind it, because that was a massive shake-up in the whole sphere. And then there's also many other routes you can take to get to an apprenticeship or to get into a financial institution like Lloyd's. So there's nothing to stop you trying, no matter your age.
Really interesting insights, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm going to hand back to Ian.
That was awesome. And just checking in on the chat. Thank you so much, Tom. Some questions around levels and qualifications that you need for an apprenticeship at Lloyds. So let's explain some of those here now. So in our hiring, we hire for potential. So whilst it's important to focus on your studies, we're also interested in all the things you do beyond the normal. So your hobbies, interests, pursuits. As Tom and Callum have said, things that you've read up on, podcasts you listen to, all those sorts of things. Now, careers in AI through the data apprenticeship start at level 3, which is about the same academic difficulty as an A level. But remember that in practice is more challenging because you're learning whilst you're working and expected to apply all of that learning to work. So it's not the same as an A level. We then have data roles at level 4. And then also, as Tom was explaining, then after that, he can go on to technology leadership roles at level 6, which is your degree apprenticeship thing. So you get the opportunity to obtain a degree if that's what you want later on down the line with somebody else paying for it, which is rather nice.
Absolutely. And we can see that there's lots of questions about the grades and qualifications that you might need to join as an apprenticeship at Lloyds. But once again, for each role, it has its own unique requirements. Now, if we look at level 3, you will need maths and English pass grades wherever you did your education in the UK, but not A levels. From level 4 and above, you will need A levels or higher and advanced higher if you're joining us from Scotland. And the grades needed will be set out in each job advert. So they can vary by role depending on the scheme you're interested in. But we generally don't mind what subjects you've studied, but we do want you to research the job carefully and know that it's the right apprenticeship programme for you.
And finally, there's some questions in there around what happens if I went to school overseas and visas. Now, that can be really complicated. So if you did study at school overseas, there's an organization called ENIC, which is ENICK, and they exist to help you translate those qualifications into ones that are needed here in the UK. If that applies to you, it's a really good idea to get on early with that process so that if you're applying to an apprenticeship, there's no delay in that you've got that kind of equivalency certificate. And as of right now, because there are some questions around that as well, we do not offer visa sponsorship for apprenticeships.
Now, Ian, tonight we've covered so much ground around AI. All we really need now is an AI summary of the show. That would be excellent. But the good news is, if you've missed anything this evening or you just want time to go back over a little bit of some of the content from tomorrow, the recording of tonight's show will be available in the Lloyds Early Careers YouTube channel. And there you'll also find all the previous past episodes of the Lloyds Careers Live subscriptions and towards the end of our 3rd season. So we're now building up a huge bank of content there that you can look back through. There's a lot to learn from all of those videos. Now, looking a little bit ahead, if you're in the north of England, there is an opportunity to join us in person on the 7th of June for Skills Fest, which is our quarterly skills roadshow. Now, on the 7th of June, Skills Fest will be an open doors event in Manchester where you can come to our office, meet the team, including Ian and I, learn more about apprenticeships and try your hand at some of the skills builder experiences that we host. There are limited tickets available through Eventbrite, so if you're here tonight as a member of Young Professionals, you can get tickets through YP as well. And if that's not enough for you, don't forget we have even more resources to help you with your career, including mentoring from our existing apprentices that you can access through our Faster Forward student platform. The link will be in the chat. And this is your one-stop shop where all of our events, our learning and our mentoring takes place. And we've put the link in the chat for you now.
I've been very diligent. I've been putting the links in the chat over and over again. Now, at the start of the show, we asked you 2 questions, and I want to check in again to see how things have changed. So if we can get our poll back up, at the start of the thing, we asked you about to what extent do you feel confident in understanding careers in data and AI? So once again, if we can get that 3rd poll up so you can have another go at it. To what extent do you understand careers in AI? And it doesn't matter what you write on here, it just helps us to understand how good a job we've done in helping you understand a little bit more than when you started. And Grainne, that looks a different shape. That looks to me like everything
it is progressing closer to 4s and 5s, absolutely.
Yeah, it all looks like it squished its way down a little bit. Maybe we got it people excited about coming to Manchester and meeting us in person has given them so much more confidence. You never know. And then, great. Okay.
Brilliant. And our second question for our poll this evening was, on a scale of 1 to 5, what extent do you believe Lloyds is your preferred choice of employer? Now, we asked this earlier on. Be honest, we're not worried about what your answer is. It just gives us a little bit of an idea if we've hit the mark or if Lloyds might be a future destination for you. We can see, yes,
And it's
definitely
fine.
people
It's
moving
whatever.
up.
Yeah, and I think it's fine for whatever people want to say in there. You know, part of the thing in Careers Live is help you understand Lloyds a bit more. And it's okay if understanding us means that there's another employer that you'll feel more comfortable with. Then we've also done our job in helping you to understand who we are and what we're about. But again, Grainne, that looks to me like we've got a squish going down, which
A
is
shift, absolutely.
nice.
And it's
Yeah.
fantastic to see that tonight's live stream has helped so many of you in just under 60 minutes. Don't forget to register with our Faster Forward student platform for more careers advice and catch the replay of this live stream on YouTube tomorrow. Now, many of you like to write stories about how Lloyds Careers Live is helping you on LinkedIn, and we love reading those stories. So do please tag Ian and myself. We will spend all night this evening going through them, commenting on them, and resharing them. It means a lot just to hear those stories to see how these events and this show helps you and how we can change it to make it better in the future.
Absolutely. And coming up next month on Careers Live, we're going to be exploring careers in customer experience and user experience. This is often abbreviated to CX and UX design. So that's Tuesday, the 3rd of June at 5 p.m., always the first Tuesday of the month. And we'll get to look at how customer experience needs to be designed to get that user experience right. And that helps whether you're designing in-person or digital services. It can be the make or break moment for all organizations. And it's a really interesting career pathway because it's got an interesting blend of tech, behavioral psychology, and creative thinking. So definitely one that you don't want to miss. It's been our absolute pleasure having your company here this evening. Wherever your career takes you, we hope that tonight has helped inform and inspire you to drive your career faster forward. From all of us at Lloyds, bye for now.
Good night, everyone. Bye.